Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new Bills baseball vlog. Today I'm going to be talking about easily the most exciting player in all of baseball today, Shohei Ohtani. Now, why am I doing an entire video based on Shohei Ohtani? Well, you've probably heard the last couple of weeks the question, should Shohei Ohtani be traded? The trade deadline is about a week and a half away. August 1st is right around the corner. And there are teams that, maybe should try to get Shohei. I don't really know. But let's take a look at where the Angels stand. Let's just take a look at where the Angels stand in both the American League West and, more importantly, the wild card race. So they lost last night to the Pittsburgh Pirates. They are now 50 and 49 on the year, 8 games out of first place. They more than likely will not get first. They more than likely will not win the division unless they go on some crazy winning streak. It's the wild card race, I think, that is more important for the Angels to consider than the division. Because as of today, as of this recording, July 23rd, 2023, the Angels are 4 games out of the last wild card spot, which is currently held by the Toronto Blue Jays. Seattle is a half game ahead of the Angels. The Yankees and Boston are 2 games ahead of the Angels, and then they have to make up the 4 games to get to Toronto for the final wild card spot. I'm not going to be here and say they should or they shouldn't. I will let you guys come up with your own decision. But I want to bring up a couple of stats of how incredible Shohei Ohtani's season has been so far. I'm going to do his batting, and then I'll get to his pitching. So far this year, he has a WAR of 6.8, which leads the American League. That's wins above replacements. 35 home runs, 302 has a slugging percentage of .668. His OPS is 1.065, which leads the American League. And he's just having an incredible year. He has 7 triples, which leads the American League. So he's having an incredible year at the plate. He's on pace to hit 60 home runs, which after Aaron Judge hitting 62 last year would be an incredible feat. His pitching this year, he's 8-5 on the mound. He's got a 3.71 ERA. He has struck out 148 batters, which is really good. He's probably going to have another 200 strikeout season. His last 5 games pitching, and I want to try to pull up his pitching. Here we go. So his last game was Pittsburgh, the game on Friday night. Went 6 1/3, allowed 6 hits for 5 runs, 5 earned runs, but struck out 9 batters. He struck out 9 batters on his last appearance on the mound. So, Ohtani, who just turned 29 a few weeks ago, is having one of the greatest seasons in the history of baseball. And the Angels are in a very peculiar position. Should they trade Ohtani? Should they not trade Ohtani? The benefit to trading Ohtani, obviously, is you're going to get a bunch of players. Probably minor league players and maybe 1 or 2 players that are currently in the major leagues. And, you're going to get value back for Shohei Ohtani. That's if you trade him. If you don't trade Ohtani, you're saying to him, we believe in you, we believe in your team, we believe you have the team to get to the playoffs. And like I said, 4 games is not a lot. I know it's July 23rd, but the trade deadline is 9 days away. Do you really trade the best player in the world? Or do you keep him? That is the million-dollar question. If it was me, and I'm not going to give, like, this is, how can I say this? If it was me, if I was in charge of the Angels, and I knew today, July 23rd, 1 game over 500, we're 8 games out of first place in the American League West, but we're 4 games out of the final wild card spot with 2 months to go. Trout, you gotta figure he's gonna come back. I would think he will come back before the season is out. Rendon maybe comes back. I'm not really sure. I think if I was in charge of the Angels, I would not trade him. Because this is the last year on Ohtani's contract. Because he becomes a free agent after this season. And then after that, who knows what happens? Who goes for him? Obviously the New York teams. The Dodgers are going to try. The Giants are going to try. I would imagine the Angels will at least make an attempt at keeping Ohtani. But if I'm in charge of the Angels organization, and I know, hey, we're 4 games out of the wild card spot, we still have a shot on July 23rd. I take the shot. I would keep Ohtani, and I'd say, let's go for it. Let's try to get a wild card spot. Because as long as Ohtani can stay healthy, and that's the key thing, as long as he can stay healthy, have great at-bats, good pitching performances, and like I said, Trout could come back, Rendon could come back. I think the Angels have a shot to get the final wild card spot. I'm not saying they will, but I think they might have a shot if they do other moves. If they could get another player. If they could get another pitcher. But be able to keep Ohtani. I think it is possible to keep Ohtani, get into the playoffs. I think it's possible. I don't know if it'll happen. But if I'm the Angels, and I'm thinking this over, I'm thinking, hey, we're not that far back. We can catch Toronto. We can get this final wild card spot. I think what ultimately is going to happen is this next week. This next week, I think, will decide what the Angels are going to do. So, we take the game today with Pittsburgh out of the picture. They have a 3-game road series in Detroit, which is pretty winnable, I think. I think it's a pretty winnable series there with Detroit. Then they have a 3-game series in Toronto. That series, to me, is what will decide ultimately what the Angels are going to do with Ohtani, is the series in Toronto. If they can take 2 of 3 from Toronto, in Toronto, next weekend, I think they keep Ohtani. I think they do. I don't believe they trade him. They take the shot at going for the wild card. But they've got to have a good week this week. They got to beat Detroit. They got to beat Toronto. And then we'll see what the Angels management does after that. But to me, I really think the best decision at this time is to keep Ohtani, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so real quick, a look at the standings going into today, the 23rd of July. Start with the American League East, the series of the weekend. The Baltimore Orioles won yesterday. They now have a 1-game lead on Tampa Bay, 6.5 on Toronto, and 8.5 on Boston and the Yankees. In the Central, Minnesota is in first place. They have a 2-game lead on Cleveland, 7 on Detroit, 11 on the White Sox, and 24 on the Royals. And in the West, the Rangers are in first place, 3 games ahead of Houston, 7.5 ahead of Seattle, 8 ahead of the Angels, and 31 games ahead of the Oakland A's. In the National League, the Braves lead the National League East. They have an 11.5 game lead on both Philadelphia and Miami. Philly has lost their last 4. Miami's lost their last 8. What has happened with the Marlins? Unbelievable. They have lost their last 8. They could get caught in the wild card chase. The Mets, 17.5 back, and the Nationals, 23.5 back. The Nationals were the only team to win last night in the National League East. Very interesting. In the Central, Milwaukee is in first place. They have a game and a half lead on the Reds, 7.5 on the Cubs, 11 on St. Louis, and 11.5 on the Pirates. And in the West, the Dodgers are back on top. They have a 4-game lead on both the Giants and the Diamondbacks, 10 on the Padres, and 18.5 on the Rockies. And in the wild card race, your top 3 teams, Tampa Bay, Houston, and Toronto. Toronto has a 2-game lead on both Boston and the Yankees for the final wild card spot, 3.5 on Seattle, 4 on the Angels, which I've talked about basically this entire video, 4.5 on Cleveland, 9.5 on Detroit, 13.5 on the White Sox, 26.5 on Kansas City, and 27 on Oakland. And in the National League, the 3 wildcard teams at the moment are the Diamondbacks, the Giants, and the Reds. The Reds have the final wildcard spot thanks in part to their 4-game winning streak. They now have a 1-game lead on both Philadelphia and Miami, 5.5 on San Diego, 6 on the Cubs, 7 on the Mets, 9.5 on St. Louis, 10 on Pittsburgh, 13 on Washington, and 14 on Colorado. So leave me a comment. What do you think the Angels should do? Should they trade Shohei Ohtani, or should they keep him? Leave your comment in the comment section below. Thanks for watching another episode of Bill's Baseball Vlog, and I'll talk to you all next time.